Module 3, Lesson 4, The Olympic Games. The travelers came from all directions, from every part of Greece, and from every Greek city-state. Some even came from such distant places as Egypt and Spain. They traveled on ships. Some rode on horseback or in horse-drawn chariots. Many hardy souls walked the whole way, determined to reach their distant goal, for they believed they were on a holy journey. Rich and poor, carried in luxury and treading on foot, they came by the thousands to take part in and watch the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games were held every 4 years at the site of Olympia and included contests in which ancient Greek athletes would compete. Because these games were part of a religious festival to honor the king of the gods, Zeus, they were considered sacred. In the first Olympic Games, there were only foot races or running races. Later came events like wrestling, boxing, racing horses and chariots, throwing the heavy stone discus, and throwing the javelin, a type of long spear. Among the travelers to the games one year were 2 men named Myron and Pindar. They made their way to the sacred site of Olympia in a private carriage drawn by a team of horses and driven by a servant. The passenger in the brown cloak, Myron, was so muscular that other travelers wondered, is he one of the Olympic athletes? But Myron was not an athlete. He was a sculptor who used his muscular arms and huge hands to carve out statues of bronze and marble. Myron was telling his traveling companion, "Of course, you are right, Pindar. I could just invite the champions to my home after the competition and carve statues of them there. But I want my statues to show the exact moment when a runner starts to pull ahead in a race, or the instant when a discus thrower is about to let go of that heavy stone and fling it down the field. So I prefer to see those Olympic events with my own eyes." His friend Pindar smiled and answered, "I, on the other hand, have written poems in honor of champions without ever having seen them compete. But I am less interested in watching a runner cross the finish line in the first place than I am in the effort and determination it took for him to get there. It is this I admire, and it is about this that I write." Myron grinned. "Well, your way works for you, just as mine works for me." Suddenly a voice called out, "Pindar, what are you doing with that Athenian? Don't you know that we Thebans are still fighting a war with Athens?" Turning, Pindar recognized a friend from his hometown of Thebes. Directing his carriage driver to stop the horses, Pindar said, "My friend, you know that all such conflicts are set aside here. Everyone is guaranteed safe passage going to and returning from the Olympic Games, so that all may gather to take part in this grand competition to honor Zeus and the other gods. The Olympic Games were more important than the conflicts the cities were having with each other, and these conflicts were put on hold so that everyone would gather safely for the sacred games." Pindar went on, "Besides, Myron and I are artists. When I write a poem or when Myron carves a statue, our interest goes far beyond the boundaries of any one city. We honor these champions as examples, so that we might encourage all Greeks to do the best they can in their own lives. This is how we honor the gods, who gave us our hearts, minds, and muscles." By the time Pindar and Myron reached Olympia, the greatest athletes in the Greek world had already gathered. Pindar and Myron looked around excitedly at the running track and the long jump pit and the vast horse racing stadium. In the distance, thick clouds hid the peaks of Mount Olympus. All of the athletes were men, for there were no events for women in the original Olympic Games, with the exception of the horse and chariot races. If women owned horses, they were allowed to enter them into the races, but they were not the ones who rode the horses. Women were not even allowed to be present at the Olympic Games to see their horses win. Victory was a source of great pride for the winners and their home cities. An Olympic champion received a wreath of laurel leaves to wear atop his head. But more than that, he knew his name would live forever as a hero in the city's history. In fact, many cities awarded large sums of money to their champions. In some regards, things have not changed much in the 27 centuries since the first Olympics. Modern athletes, too, may win fame, even if their greatest reason to compete is for the love of sport. The Summer Olympics are still held every 4 years, but now there are also Winter Olympics, with winter sports such as skiing, bobsledding, figure skating, that are held 2 years after every Summer Olympics. The location of the Olympic Games also changes each time. They have been hosted in cities such as Seoul, Korea, Atlanta, Georgia, and Athens, Greece. Men, and now women, from all over the world travel to the chosen city to compete. Even if their countries are not getting along, people set aside their conflicts, just as in the ancient days, in honor of the games. Even though many centuries have passed since Myron and Pindar traveled to the Olympics, they too are still remembered. Today, Myron's depiction of an Olympic champion, the discus thrower, remains one of the most famous statues in the world. The original statue was lost long ago, perhaps in a war or an earthquake, but fortunately someone made an exact copy so we can still admire Myron's work. As for the poet Pindar, the Greeks loved his poems so much that, for centuries after his death, he was remembered by the priests and priestesses at Apollo's temple. They would pray at closing each night, "Let Pindar the poet attend the supper of the gods." Later still, when the Greek king Alexander the Great ordered that Pindar's city of Thebes be destroyed in a war, Alexander commanded his soldiers, "But keep Pindar's house safe from the flames." Pindar's ideas about doing our best with whatever talents we are given, and about getting along peacefully with one another, remain part of our thinking today. In fact, we still call this way of seeing things the Olympic spirit.